Welcome everyone to Together Women Rise's November webinar. I'm Rita Delgado. I will be your moderator for tonight's event. I serve as co-regional leader for our Northeast region, and I'm also a chapter leader in Salisbury, Connecticut, where we are about to celebrate our 10th anniversary. So I'm just happy about that milestone. Before we get started with the formal program, just a few quick housekeeping Zoom reminders. Please keep yourself on mute. And if you're not sure how, on your Zoom bar to the left, you would find the spot to click, the microphone to click on to mute yourself, and also in the upper right corner of your personal screen. At this time, if you haven't already, please enter your name and where you're from. And if you are new to Together Women Rise, thank you. And if you have questions for our speakers as we go along in the program, also enter your questions in the chat, and Kia will be addressing them later on. Okay. Now we know that some of you are new to Together Women Rise events. So before we get started, I would like to tell you a little bit about us. Together Women Rise is a powerful community of women and allies dedicated to achieving global gender equality. We have hundreds of local chapters across the United States where members learn about gender equality issues, give grants to organizations that empower women and girls and in low-income countries, and build community to forge meaningful connections with women and girls around the world. Please, for more information and ways that you can get involved, and there are many, visit our website at togetherwomenrise.org. Each month, Together Women Rise features a project that addresses one of the many challenges that face women and girls in low-income countries around the world. We award these projects a featured grant of between $35,000 to $50,000. And together, at this national webinar and at chapter gatherings all across the United States, we learn about the country, challenges, and how the project of that month will help women and girls and eventually help to achieve global gender equality. This month, we are delighted to be partnering with Authentique Memorial Empowerment Foundation, or AMEF, a project taking place in the Cameroon. The purpose of this project is to break the cycle of poverty by providing conflict-affected young girls and pregnant girls with access to education, livelihood opportunities, and psychosocial support. Before we start our video, some of you might have heard me talking about Samuel. I have a very personal connection to Cameroon, as in 2010, we brought our first Cameroonian son to the United States to study at our school here at in Salisbury. And he's just turned 28 years old, all grown up and living in Burlington and doing wonderful work with immigrant population that come from various parts of Africa to Burlington, Vermont. A few years later, his younger brother came, and he just graduated high school and is now studying at Hobart College. Another brother, Mani, is coming in, we hope, in December. And then my goal, as this community will understand, is to bring a sister when she's just a little bit older, so she can further her education here with us. First, we're going to play a short video about the project, and then I am delighted to introduce our guest speaker from AMEF.
Since 2016, the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon are being ravaged by an armed conflict that has claimed the lives of thousands and displaced many families. The villages of Mabanda and Barambikang, located in Kumba 3 subdivision of the southwest region of the nation, are not exempted from the devastating effects of a war now known as the Anglophone crisis.
Quarter head Mabanda Kumba 3. The crisis have affected the youth, especially here in Mabanda. I cannot say elsewhere because boys now they smoke and they drink. When they drink like that, at times they go inside bushes to be raping women and girls.
When we run for bush, they shoot away. Put one car, they don't burn our house. We don't get a place where we enter again. We go back for bush. As we don't stay for bush to cool, place where we stay or rain, now for it we can't enter for the camp.
The impact of this armed conflict is horrific, from loss of lives and obstruction of the family units.
Plenty of women picking they don't carry belly, they know they go school again. So with them, I mean them too, they take a shit, they picking them too. If they pass away, we not fit to feed that one day. The one they trade they be born now. We not see fit to feed that. So now, how they don't born with villages there? We don't count for the IDP camp when a government camp. Government never drive for here, so don't shind up for here. We not see some see place all display. Now people they can't give you some more container. Sometimes they can't give you some more chop with the chop. Sometimes they say they can't give you part them for a woman picking them. So we say and say for you them true, you know the worker.
This has increased humanitarian needs and augmented the poverty situation of these areas, with women, young girls and children constituting the majority of the vulnerable group. When teenage girls are out of school, their future is already at risk. They become a tool for their families to relieve their financial tension through early marriages or engaging them in menial jobs just to make ends meet. With no income-generating skill, they are likely to engage in prostitution and survival sex for food, further exposing them to GBV, early pregnancies, rape, and other ills. The burden of a pregnant teenage mother is even heavier to bear. She is now tasked with assisting her family with their basic needs, taking care of herself and the new life she's bringing into the world, leaving her trapped in the cycle of poverty. Life as an internally displaced young girl or teenage mother is very burdensome. The challenges are not only limited to difficulties that spring up from settling down in a new environment. It is accompanied by inability to afford balanced meals, education, a conducive living environment, all sponsored by lack of a source of income.
The crisis, I don't get money for go school. I never go school. I stay there. Now I can follow some boy. They go to give me some money for chop for us. When I that, so I follow and I give me belly 9 day one.
This is where an initiative like the Grow Project comes in. The main goal is to provide teenage mothers and young girls with education, that is, basic numeracy and literary skills, formal learning, income generating, and psychosocial support to help them regain their dignity and confidence.
When the project is given to especially these IDPs who are here in Mabanda, it will help them much. Those who are dropped out, they will learn a certain trade to help themselves and the family.
The importance of female education, empowerment, and emancipation cannot be overemphasized, reason why it is one of the main pillars at AMEF. It is also a tool in the reduction of poverty and has a trickle-down effect which improves family well-being. Such a project is very timely. Its impact will go beyond improving the overall welfare of these girls and redirecting their steps. It presents an opportunity for them to grow and be the best version of themselves.
Let there be love all around the world.
Tonight, we are pleased to have with us Dr. Margaret Niger Thomas, the founder and executive director of AMEF. Margaret is an educationist, a researcher, and activist. As a social anthropologist who specializes in women and gender studies, she studied at the University of Yaoundé, Oxford, and Leiden in the Netherlands. She has been the head of the gender department and lecturer at the University of Buea and Yaoundé in Cameroon. She has occupied various positions in the Cameroon civil service in regards to women and families. Since her retirement from the civil service in 2017, Margaret has done consultancy in diverse domains. She coordinates the NEPAD, Gender, Climate Change, Agriculture Support Program, Cameroon, and oversees and manages AMEF activities, where she has piloted so many developmental and humanitarian actions in the southwestern region of Cameroon. We are delighted to welcome Margaret. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Rita. Hello, good evening, everyone. Of course, you've heard my name, Margaret Nigel Thomas, the founder, the executive director of AMEF. I'm excited to be one of your guests to the TWR webinar conference today. And on behalf of my organization, permit me appreciate the strong women and allies of Together Women Rise for this opportunity, great opportunity given to us. We say a big thank you. Briefly about AMEF. How it came about, actually, it was, I went to one of the most remote areas in the Southwest region in 2001, and I came across, there was a discovery of a phenomenon called the money woman. Money woman, a situation whereby young girls are commoditized, sometimes even before birth, as was the case. This was the case of the two little girls, aged 5 and 6 years, I came across for the first time. This is done through early forced marriages, often initiated by family heads, by male family heads for their benefits. One of these cases I studied and did a baseline study is a case of a money woman aged 15 years, married to a retired policeman aged 70 years. The need to advocate for the rights of these girls, of the girl child and women trapped in early forced marriage, especially the money woman phenomenon, and of course to socially empower them, led to the creation of the Authentic Memorial Educational Foundation in 2006. Which was formalized in 2008. Actually, AMEF works in very remote enclave and enclave areas, and our target population includes children 0 to 12 years old, especially the girl child, women and youths, adolescent girls most of the time, vulnerable groups of people like orphans, widows, single mothers, elderly, needy, and persons with disabilities. One of our great target population are women, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. When we realize that in these remote areas, it is very rare to have interventions. As such, we were bound to expand the vision of AMEF to integrate a more holistic approach and to complement the educational agenda. It is on the basis of this that the AMEF vision changed from just an educational foundation, and now we are talking of the Authentic Memorial Education Empowerment Foundation, having 4 components. The AMEF works with a model. We call it the AMEF Holistic Community-Based Working Model, of which we can run four programs, and a lot of impact has been gotten through this. I would like to share our screen and to talk on the model. Now, here you have, yeah, I hope I can do it without any problem. This is the model. It's not coming up big. I wish, okay, this is it. So here we are. AMEF work with these 4 programs. You have the Education and Child Protection Program. You have whereby we carry out formal and non-formal education. In fact, I would like to talk briefly on our achievements. We have opened 2 schools, 2 primary schools for children aged 3 to 15 years. Today, we are partnering with some international organizations like UNESCO to carry out non-formal education, especially in this time of crisis, where we have the Education Cannot Wait program, the last mile learning with Street Child. This has affected about 7,007 children, 4,200 girls, 2,807 boys, with 48 trained teachers carrying out non-formal education in this period of crisis. Now, in regards to child protection, notably, we create awareness. We have created a lot of awareness in communities and schools on child abuse, child trafficking, early forced marriages, and also providing psychosocial support to teachers and the pupils. A lot of success stories have been recorded in our activities over the years. With regards to economic empowerment, we have had a program with the new NEPA, that's the new Partnership for Africa's Development based in South Africa, since 2012, where we came out with the Gender Climate Change Agricultural Support Program, which I coordinated, and in Cameroon as the main coordinator, and acted as a consultant for the NEPAD. In this, we've been able to train women on climate change and the effects of it, how to mitigate it, and how to carry out climate-smart agriculture, considering the fact that most of these rural women are agricultural based, and of course, how to produce organic fertilizers to help them improve on their nutrition. A lot of girls over the years and women have acquired skills in diverse forms of income generating activities through training and capacity building. Now, just last year, we affected 2,970 lactating and pregnant mothers with provision of specialized nutritious food. This we do most of the time during food distribution. We have facilitated the creating of cooperative women's cooperatives over the years to help them. One of our major successes is in the mainstreaming of gender and protection, that gender protection mainstreaming in all our activities and projects. Over the years, we've organized radio talks in local community radio, sensitization campaign, focus group discussions on issues like gender-based violence, peace building, creating gender clubs in schools, promoting the he for she dialogues in various communities. In fact, we have some safe spaces where survivors of gender-based violence can take refuge, and we try to empower them, providing survival mechanisms. Sometimes we make referrals to other organizations who can be of help to them. Last year, we were able to distribute food to 25,500 people in 16 local villages in crisis-affected areas every month. For the past years, we can say that the developmental background of AMEF has shifted a bit and integrated humanitarian and peace component. This is due to the outbreak of the socio-political crisis that broke out in 2016, affecting the two English parts of Cameroon. It is within this backdrop that the GROW project was born by AMEF, an initiative meant to solve the issues, some of the issues and challenges caused by the devastating effects of the so-called Anglophone crisis. In Cameroon, we should take note that Cameroon has been a relatively peaceful country over the years since its independence since 1961, until 2016, when the crisis broke off and is affecting the two English-speaking regions out of 10 regions. Since the outbreak of the armed conflicts, these regions have experienced destruction of property, massive killing of people, closure of schools, general insecurity, increased poverty and vulnerability. Families are disrupted, minors are separated from their parents, and this accounts for increase in the population of internally displaced persons in host towns. In fact, the number of pregnant teenage girls and adolescent mothers has been on a steady rise. These girls are unable to take care of themselves, as you saw in the documentary. They were speaking in Pidgin. I'm sorry some of you didn't understand. They were expressing their situation in Pidgin English, so they are unable to take care of themselves or their children due to lack of livelihood. These girls also become victims of stigma from their community. They experience low self-esteem, low self-confidence, which is it makes their vulnerable. They become even further exploited due to their present condition. AMEF concerns about the future of these teenage mothers and pregnant young girls out of school. Have been out of school, some of them for 5 years, living in abject poverty with their children. All of this led to the GROW project. We will see that the GROW project, AMEF aims of providing opportunities for this category of girls to rewrite their stories through the four components of the GROW project. Permit me share the screen with the group. We have been able to situate the GROW project within the AMEF's model, the holistic community-based working model. You realize that, thanks to the TWR initiative for accepting to support this initiative, the GROW project falls within this holistic approach, which we are using. And you realize that the four components, looking at the components, we have the accelerated learning program, which will be affecting 120 girls, 15 to 18 years old within 10 months. There's this program which will help them to rebuild their numeracy literacy skills for those who have been out of school for so many years. There will be formal education for some about 24% of those who will be able to make it, and vocational intensive skills acquisition training will be given to about 80% of these girls within 4 months. Of course, startup capitals will be given to them. So this we can see in the educational aspect, the non-formal, this is it, accelerated learning. You see the livelihood, vocational training skills will be acquired, the market analysis, they'll be able to do this. You go, and then of course you have the psychosocial support, whereby we organize meetings, sensitization, awareness creation, education talks, educative talks we organize. There will be positive parenting, community advocacy. Of course, all of this cannot be done without the community. The community leaders, the weekly mentoring will take place during this program. We train community leaders who will be talking on gender-based violence, sexual reproductive health, leadership, enabling these girls to build up their skills, self-esteem, and confidence. Of course, during these meetings, it is certain that some of these meetings will serve as safe space for these girls. To impact this project, the GROW project, we're expecting that the results will have a great impact on the identified communities, target communities, and the population. With regards to the expected impact, we believe that the GROW project, firstly, will be addressing both practical gender needs and strategic needs, which are all needs within the community identified. Exposing this category of girls and women and girls to basic reading and writing skills will enable them to access information, relief services. They'll be able to carry out, manage their balance sheets for income generation activities and others. Some of them have been out of school for many years. And so again, with the intensive vocational training and startup kits that will be given to them to empower them economically, this will enable them to have some resources that will help them to afford basic needs, practical needs for themselves and their children. And this could go a long way to reduce the cycle of poverty, which they are all, and of course, the risk of further exploitation, because they can make money for themselves. As you watch the documentary, you will see that some of the girls were saying is that they don't have a choice. These boys took them to the bushes, they pregnanted them and abandoned them. They can no longer go to schools. And why this happened? Because they have no means of subsistence. They have no resources of their own. So they are dependent. Once they can generate some income of their own through this project, certainly they can at least build up their self-esteem, while the psychosocial support meetings are expected to help improve their mental health and resilience of these beneficiaries. There is a possibility that the number of them will be inserted. There'll be insertion and reinsertion of these girls stigmatized due to early pregnancy and sexual violence. Also, community advocacy and education of the male and female leaders on the rights of girl child will go a long way to impact on the society. Once more, given the limited time, there's a lot to talk about, but I believe maybe some questions will help me highlight some of the issues of interest. And because of time constraint, I want to say once more, let me appreciate Together Women's Rights Initiative in reaching out to the underprivileged in Cameroon. I'm very excited about this project, and I believe the results will be attained and the impacts will be recorded. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It seems like you all are doing so much work in the GROW program. We do have a couple of questions already coming in, so I'll get right to it. Our first question from Ruth. Really, likes to see that the leader of this community is involved with the project. So could you share more about how does, your organization get buy-in for the program from those local communities?
Yes, what happened is that if you look at our model is we go from theory to practice into the community. What happens is that we sometimes carry out, first of all, feasibility before we get into a project, or carry out baseline studies, and we do research. So with this theoretical aspect, we don't get into the field without dealing with the community. Sometimes the community stakeholders have an input in the development of the project. As such, it enables them to buy the project over and to appropriate it. In fact, with the GROW project, they were the ones who identified the beneficiaries. We can go to the community and just step in. We get to the community, we meet the chiefs, we meet the stakeholders, the council, we discuss with different community leaders, women groups, men's groups, and that helps us to get the community involved. And certainly this is how we get into the community and make sure that they appropriate and participate in the project.
Great. And we have a couple of questions actually about the role of men and boys.
Yes.
And, you know, how involved are they and how do we get buy-in from the male participants in these communities as well?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Actually, the male cannot be left out, considering the fact that most of these girls, the pregnancy is not gotten by the girls, they meet the boys. So there is an agenda, considering that the GROW project is limited. We have a frame, but we have a continuation to get the young men, to educate them, to sensitize them on the rights of the girl child and on their own rights, such that they can know the importance of the girl child within their community. This we've already begun in some of these communities. The men, we meet them in their community sessions, their council sessions, and we have created a relationship where we can educate them on gender-based violence and what happens, the ills of this in the society. And when these girls are left behind, it reduces the potentials of development within the community. They should be part of the development programs because they are part of the communities. Their voices should be heard. So we discuss through focus group discussions, we meet the boys, and we intend that the boys will be taken on board in the future, because of course the project now can integrate everybody. But nevertheless, we are working with the community, and the boys will be educated alongside the male leaders of the community. That's why the chief, you could see the quarter here was talking and explaining the plight of the community.
Great, thank you. We have another question from Lindy, who wants to know a little bit more about your particular background and your path to running this organization and your interest in working with girls specifically.
I didn't get that. Can you take that again, please?
Yes, the question is about your personal background.
Okay.
If you could share a little bit more about your path to advocating on behalf of girls and how you ended up in your role.
Excellent. I like that. Actually, my background studies positions me so well. I studied anthropology, and I did a PhD in Oxford. I studied in Oxford as well, in the Center for Cross-Cultural Research on Women. And I studied in Leiden. I did a PhD on gender with a bias, women and gender studies. And when I came back to Cameroon, I worked with the Ministry of Women's Empowerment. From all through my life, I've been empowering. In fact, I have a passion for empowering women and girls. This has been up throughout my career. And this can be seen being the head of Department of Gender. I'm always ensuring that gender is integrated in all what we do. And working in the government, I also work in the government, the ministry, that is the gender ministry for Cameroon. I worked as the director for economic empowerment of women and the family. I worked as inspector #1 until I retired. So all of this gave me an entrance into the field. And as a researcher, I've done a lot of research in rural areas. I have a passion for the rural ground as an anthropologist. I like the field. And so it is this that leads me to identify the ills of society. And of course, I've done a lot of research, and this is my passion, and it's part and parcel of me. And so I take delight in looking how to help the girl child. What can I do? And this motivated this club. When I identified the money woman phenomena, I couldn't have rest. I wrote a report. The government could not solve it. Nobody could help me until I was forced to create a non-government. I could not sleep until I get these girls affected, because I have 4 girls and a boy. And I thought, these girls, if it were my children, what would have happened? It bothered me. And I would not rest until this was 2001. But I got a first support from Plan Cameroon to do a baseline in 2014. You can imagine. So I've been searching for support from all over to ensure that something can be done. It is part and parcel of me. And that's what I've been doing. And that's why we fell into Together Women Rise with my team of AMEF workers who have also delighted. With the school, we have the school with girl children, especially now with the crisis. Some are suffering from rape. In the school, we identify this kind of girls, and we try to look for how they can be supported. Some have not gone to school. I'm searching for more means of how the needs are enormous, and I don't have the rest. So I can go on and on and on.
Well, thank you so much for your passion. So many of our members share that passion for these topics. We have time for just one more brief question.
Yeah.
And it's from Elaine, who wants to know, what kind of vocational skills are you teaching these girls? You said that was a big part of the program.
Yes. for the vocational skills, they'll have an intensive 4 months training in skills like the sewing, and they'll have kids sewing machines. Some of them need small capitals to start, like baking, doing some baking to sell, open petty trading. So how to manage their bookkeeping, how they can read the accounts so that they are not cheated. So this we've been doing. We carry out urban agriculture as well. So we train them on how to produce organic fertilizers, but in this particular program, it's more of training them on sewing, hairdressing, where you can buy the needs to equip a small shop for them so that they can, their self-esteem, they can know that they are doing something of their own instead of being dependent. So this with the vocational training, this would be quite intensive. And we've been doing it over the years. This is just another time within this crisis. And these particular communities, we have not done it before. So we think they're excited about it and waiting for the project to take off. Yeah. I'm open to any other question, any other concerns.
Well, thank you so much. We, I think, have run out of time for questions, but if you do have more, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll keep track of them. Yes. Rita, you're still muted, but we can continue.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I should get muted. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
There I am. Okay. Margaret, on behalf of all of us at Together Women Rise, it's been a pleasure to hear you share your passion, and we are so delighted to support the important work that you do in the Cameroon. So thank you again for being with us tonight. Thank you. So we have a very rich program tonight, and our next presentation is about Colectivo. Together Women Rise awarded a $50,000 impact partnership grant to the Colectivo. It's a network of organizations with a shared focus on the empowerment and the dignity of girls and women in Guatemala. The Colectivo includes several of Rise's past grantees, including Maya, Wings, and Women's Justice Initiative. Tonight, we have with us several speakers who will give us an update on the Colectivo's work training local female Guatemalan leaders. We have Kate Flatley, and she is the founder and executive director of Women's Justice Initiative, one of the 4 organizations that make up the Colectivo, and also a past Together Women Rise grantee. Kate is a lawyer with 15 years of experience working for nonprofit organizations, developing and managing projects, and conducting research in the fields of human rights, access to justice, education, and public health. Before founding the Women's Justice Initiative as a Pfizer Center for Global Health scholar, Kate led a health and human rights research project with migrant workers in Guatemala. Kate is a graduate of Yale University and the University of Virginia Law School. Waleska Lopez Canu is originally from Patsum, Chitmaltenango, and is proudly Kakchakal, Maya. She received her medical doctorate from the Autonomous University of Mexico and completed her clinical training at the University of San Carlos in Guatemala. Waleska has worked extensively in Mexico and Guatemala for Ministry of Health programs to extend coverage to rural areas. Her previous leadership experience includes managing a large team of healthcare providers, serving in dozens of rural communities in the Department of Chimaltenango. She originally worked with Wuku Kawak Maya Health Alliance in 2010 to 2011, and she returned to the team as the medical director in 2014. Brenda Salo is 27 years old and is also Maya Kakchikal. She is a psychopedagogue and has several years of experience working on education projects to enhance the basic skills of young people. Today, Brenda is a member of the first generation of the collective and is a generator of change in the lives of the young pioneers of Maya.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I am so excited to participate in this event. I'm Brenda. I work at Maya, and I am also a member of the very first generation of the Colectivo. It's an honor to share with you about the Colectivo. And thanks so much for hearing our impact too. Las organizaciones miembros del colectivo, ALAS, Maya, IDM y Wukuka-Wok, comparten las siguientes cualidades organizacionales. Uno, es sobre las misiones que se ofrecen y se enfocan en la dignidad y empoderamiento de la mujer en Guatemala.
Brenda,
Dos,
voy a iniciar a traducir ahora.
muy bien. Muy bien.
I'm gonna jump in. Good evening, everyone. I'm just serving to translate this evening for Brenda and Waleska. So Brenda just started the presentation sharing the commonalities that the organizations that make up the Colectivo, Wings, Maya, WJI, and Maya Health Alliance, or Wukuka-Wok, share. And she just mentioned that all of their missions focus on the dignity and empowerment of rural women in Guatemala.
Gracias, Kate. Les mencionaba acerca de nuestras misiones que se enfocan en la dignidad y empoderamiento de la mujer en Guatemala. Número 2, que es un compromiso compartido con el talento local para el diseño, liderazgo e implementación de la programación. Número 3, todos se guían por un enfoque basado en los derechos y la comunidad para lograr soluciones dignas a largo plazo.
So the second shared vision of the organizations is that we all have a commitment to investing in local talent to design, lead, and implement our programming. And also all of the organizations are guided by a community-based, rights-focused approach to achieving long-term sustainable solutions.
Nos enfocamos en estos temas porque Guatemala enfrenta algunos de los peores niveles de equidad de género, de educación, violencia contra la mujer y salud en la región.
We focus on these areas because Guatemala faces some of the worst levels of gender inequality, access to education, violence against women and girls, and health indicators in the region.
Y uno de los ejemplos es sobre la equidad de género. Sabemos que Guatemala tiene la mayor brecha de equidad de género en América Latina. También está el otro ejemplo que es sobre la salud reproductiva. Las mujeres guatemaltecas y específicamente de las comunidades indígenas tienen en promedio entre 1.1 y 3.7 de hijos. Y este es sobre investigaciones que se han hecho.
Two indicators that demonstrate these high levels include that Guatemala has one of the largest gender equity gaps in Latin America. And in terms of reproductive health, indigenous Guatemalan women have an average of 3.1 to 3.7 children.
Y hablamos también acerca de educación. Las mujeres indígenas guatemaltecas promedian entre 3 años de escolaridad. Y otro de los puntos es sobre los derechos de las mujeres, que una tercera parte de las mujeres que viven con un hombre han experimentado violencia doméstica.
So when we look at education, indigenous women in Guatemala average 3 years of schooling. And when we focus on women's rights, a third of women living with a man in Guatemala have experienced domestic violence.
Y hablando del área de salud, el 46.5% de los niños menores de 5 años en Guatemala están desnutridos y las tasas llegan a un 90% en algunas comunidades indígenas rurales también.
In focusing on health, 46.5% of children under 5 in Guatemala are malnourished, and these rates are as high as 90% in some rural indigenous communities.
Y entonces todo esto nos lleva a una propuesta, el cual en el 2018 decidimos crear un proyecto en conjunto para justamente fortalecer nuestra alianza y responder a estas necesidades en común. Y lo hacemos a través de la identificación de sinergias y esta propuesta provocó una serie de reuniones informales, visitas y espacios de comunicación.
So, these alarming statistics really brought us together with the idea of working together. And in 2018, we decided to create a joint project to strengthen our partnership between the 4 organizations and to respond to some of these shared needs among the populations we work with. This idea led to a number of informal meetings and site visits to the different organizations and opening up kind of spaces for communication between the organizations.
Identificamos bastantes realidades y cosas en común, por ejemplo, las misiones, la filosofía, el estilo de gerencia, el talento humano y geografía entre todas estas organizaciones, en la cual pues tenemos este enfoque principal hacia el empoderamiento de las mujeres y niñas.
So through these meetings, we identified a number of common focuses and synergies among the organizations, including kind of our philosophies and mission, our management styles, and also our focus on investing in local leadership. And we had similar focuses in terms of geographic coverage. And then especially all of the organizations have a primary focus of empowering women and girls through different thematic areas.
Y por eso se crea este colectivo en la cual pues una primera colaboración que se tuvo fue sobre la investigación de necesidades en comunidades de Sololá. Como punto 2 tenemos durante la pandemia colaboramos en una campaña de comunicación sobre spots y programación radial en radios y medios comunitarios.
So over the past few years, since we started the Colectivo, we've had a few opportunities to work together on different projects and activities. The first was a needs assessment we conducted in communities and rural communities in Sololá, which is the area where Maya is based. The second collaboration was during the pandemic, where we worked on a media campaign in Mayan languages. So providing radio spots and programming with information on COVID-19 in several different languages.
Y por último, una tercera colaboración fue el enfoque principal del colectivo, y es que todas las organizaciones comparten esta meta y necesidad en común, y es sobre fortalecer el liderazgo local. Decidimos enfocarnos en este diseño e implementación de un cambio hacia un liderazgo multicultural.
So, from these kind of activities, we really started to focus on a principal area of collaboration, and that's around strengthening and investing in local Mayan leadership. So we decided to focus on designing and implementing a leadership program that focused on multicultural leadership.
Y nuestra meta del colectivo es trabajar colectivamente para transformar y potenciar el liderazgo de las mujeres indígenas en Guatemala, porque responde a estas necesidades que se mencionaron.
So the goal now of the Colectivo is to work together to transform and empower leadership of local indigenous women in Guatemala.
Una de nuestras creencias y es fundamental de las 4 organizaciones es que el colectivo, las mujeres locales de Guatemala deben liderar sus organizaciones, y parte clave de esto es poder comunicar e interactuar con socios, donantes, individuos en Guatemala y fuera del país.
So one of the fundamental beliefs of the 4 organizations is that local Guatemalan women should be leading their organizations. And a key part of getting to this goal is being able to communicate and interact with partners, donors, and individuals both in Guatemala and outside of Guatemala.
Y para hacer esto es importante ir añadiendo algunos elementos claves que usualmente no se aprende en la universidad sobre el liderazgo. Hemos identificado también 3 elementos claves para lograr un liderazgo multicultural: esta red de apoyo, el idioma inglés y habilidades claves que es sumamente importante para el liderazgo local.
In order to achieve this, it's important to provide key elements that are not usually taught in universities in Guatemala. So we've identified 3 key elements to achieving this multicultural leadership. One is building a support network for the leaders. The second is gaining English proficiency. And the third is gaining key skills for managing kind of nonprofit organizations.
I invite to Aleska. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda. Valeska is going to continue with the presentation now.
Thank you, Kate. I am Valeska Lopez. I am a medical director of Cucawoc in Guatemala. Thank you very much for this space and for being able to share my experience in El Colectivo. But now I am going to present in Spanish because my English is still limited. Siguiendo con lo que nos compartió Brenda, entonces el colectivo identifica dentro de su primer elemento 4 habilidades clave que, como ya lo mencionaron, son muy importantes para liderar una ONG y usualmente no se aprenden en una universidad, a menos que uno estudie alguna carrera gerencial.
So the Colectivo identified 4 key areas that are critical to leading an NGO that are rarely taught in universities in Guatemala unless you're in kind of a business management program.
Dentro de estas habilidades claves se estudiaron muchas posibilidades y muchos temas que pudieran ser importantes para nosotras. Sin embargo, las 4 habilidades claves fueron el diseño de proyectos, la habilidad de implementar y monitorear proyectos y manejar equipos, la habilidad de comunicar el impacto de nuestras organizaciones a nivel nacional e internacional y también la habilidad de poder formar alianzas estratégicas.
So although there are many different skill areas, we focused on 4 areas. One is project design and the ability to design and develop new projects. The next is project management, the ability to implement and monitor projects and manage teams. Communication and storytelling, the ability to communicate impact at the international level. And finally, partnerships, the ability to form strategic partnerships.
El siguiente elemento, que ya lo mencionó también mi compañera Brenda, es el dominio del inglés. Las 16 personas que estamos incluidas en este proceso, recibimos 5 horas de inglés semanalmente. La meta es llegar a un nivel B2 y como lo manifiesta una de nuestras compañeras, como pueden ver ustedes en la pantalla, dice, es un sueño el poder hablar el idioma inglés, ya que es de mucha importancia en mi área laboral y también en mi vida personal, porque eso significa que puedo tener más oportunidades de poder conversar con personas extranjeras con más confianza.
So the second element is focused on English proficiency. And as Valeska mentioned, the 16 leaders of the program receive 5 hours of English weekly, with the goal of achieving a B2 level of proficiency. And then she read the quote that you all can see here, which is from one of their colleagues who's in the program.
Y el siguiente elemento es la red de apoyo. Creo que es una de los elementos más importantes, crear un espacio seguro o una red de apoyo entre todas las lideresas. Creo que es un ejemplo que tomamos de nuestros directores, tener un espacio de confianza, un espacio de apoyo, un espacio donde podemos compartir ideas y podemos también compartir las situaciones difíciles que pasamos en los diferentes espacios.
So this, Valeska feels, is one of the most important components of the program to create a support network for the leaders. This example, she said, comes from the directors of the organizations who've benefited from an informal support network or a space where they can share ideas and talk about challenges. So the goal here is to create a safe space of support for the 16 leaders, to create more connection between them, but also so that they can support each other's growth and leadership and share their challenges that they're facing.
Y pensando en el futuro, estamos próximos a iniciar la segunda cohorte de este programa de liderazgo multicultural, que en esta ocasión va a contar con la participación de 13 mujeres de nuestras organizaciones, igual 13 mujeres lideresas o que se están perfilando para ser líderes en la organización, y confiamos en que el trabajo que hemos venido realizando durante estos últimos años en pro de las mujeres de la región, consideramos muy importante seguirlo replicando.
So in terms of our future plans, we're about to start a second cohort of women leaders who will go through the 2-year program. It'll be 13 women from the 4 organizations that will participate. And you know, we really believe that this is important in terms of supporting leadership in Guatemala and in the region. And we consider this replication critical.
Bueno, esa sería nuestra presentación. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for the presentation. That was a lot of information for us to get through this evening. You're doing some great work. I think we only have time for one question. So I will pose it to both of you. From Ruth, she asks, how do the men in the community react to all of the work that you're doing with these women and empowering these women in Guatemala?
Bueno, voy a traducir la pregunta para Brenda y Valeska. La pregunta es, ¿cómo reaccionan los hombres en las comunidades hacia el trabajo que están realizando?
It's a good question. Thank you so much for asking us this. And I explain my answer in Spanish. Yo considero que ha sido un cambio desafiante porque también a través de este liderazgo local estamos rompiendo estereotipos. Sin embargo, están aceptando poco a poco porque nosotras también estamos luchando para abrir más espacios a mujeres que se están formando y que se van a formar como líderes. Es un camino desafiante. Sin embargo, como estamos unidas como 4 organizaciones, entonces esto apoya bastante a que para las próximas generaciones sea un poquito más fácil.
Okay, I'm going to try. That was a lot. So she said that that's a great question. It is a challenging issue, but you know, because they're working on breaking stereotypes and fighting to open spaces for women in leadership roles. But she does feel like they're gaining space for more women to join in leadership roles. And it's also helpful to be working with 4 organizations together and have this kind of joint effort to support the challenging work. Brenda, no sé si capté todo. Okay.
Yes, it's good translating English. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Kate. Rita, I'll let you close it out this evening.
Thank you. And a big thank you to Valeska and Brenda and Kate for a very comprehensive update on the work being done, the incredible work being done by the Colectivo. Before we say goodnight, a couple of important announcements. Together Women Rise depends on your donations to fund projects like the ones that you've learned about tonight, as well as all of our education and our engagement activities. And we're kicking off our annual appeal this month. Our goal is to raise $450,000 by the end of the year. And you can go to our website, togetherwomenrise.org, to make a donation to our annual appeal. You can also set up your own fundraiser in support of our annual appeal. And that's a great way to share our mission with family, friends, and coworkers, or neighbors who may not be familiar with RISE. Turning to some upcoming events, our next advocacy webinar is Tuesday, November 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. On November 29th is Giving Tuesday, and we will have a special webinar at 8 p.m. And it's an evening with Bethany Griffith, a certified financial planner. Bethany will share some tips for year-end charitable giving and provide the latest tax laws concerning charitable giving. She will demystify donor-advised funds, qualified charitable distribution, and more. Our December national webinar will be on Thursday, December 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Our guest speakers will be Benita Saref, founder of managing trustee, and Manjusmita Bagchi from Ektara, which is our December featured grantee. Be sure to check our website for information on all of our upcoming events. Just click on Join Us on the Join Us tab. There you will learn more, be able to register for all the events, and access recordings of past events you might have missed. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and good night.